Thokozani. This is Mkhulu Nsengiza, the founder of the Great Empire of Kemet and also a co-founder of the African Kemet Royal Calendar. Thokozini.
Thokoza Mkhulu, Thokoza. Mkhulu, thank you so much for joining us today in this conversation. There's a myriad of questions and follow-ups regarding African spirituality and the future of South Africa and the continent as a whole. To begin, I think I would like to pose, how would you then just describe the true essence of African spiritualism?
The true essence of African spirituality is nature. It solely relies on nature. It interprets nature in its various forms, meaning that African spirituality depends on the sun, the moon, the stars, and nature in general. This is what African people interpret. As an example, with the calendar. The calendar, all season, they reflect what is prevalent in the environment at a particular time.
And I mean, so I think you touched on it, quite aptly over there, but would you then just be able to further expound on how, African spirituality would then differ from religion as many people understand it today?
Yes, religion, remember, it was created for social control. African spirituality liberates, people. It develops your own innate abilities, so that you follow nature. You don't follow a man-made, doctrine. Like religion. Religion is for social control, but African spirituality, it empowers the individual, and just connected to nature, then everything, and develop your innate abilities, your power to create. So this is what African spirituality is, and it's different from religion.
And I think that's quite important to highlight, because then what it does then establishes a good grounding as a person, as well with the environment. To that point then, in your view, how does our connection then to our ancestors guide us through moral and political uncertainty?
Our ancestors used a concept called Ma'at. Ma'at is the divine law. Ma'at is the one that balances and encourages harmony. So that was taught amongst the people. For people to be self-policing, because you know when you do something wrong. You don't need somebody to tell you. So our ancestors were building a perfect, person or individual, so that you live with those high morals, knowing that the benefits of being in harmony all the time. It makes you a magnet. Whatever that you think, whatever that you want, it's somehow drawn towards you, which is why people always reflected and made that introspection throughout the day. What is it that I've done that have tipped the scales within me? Because you feel if something wrong it has happened, or you've done it, or you said it, you feel it within you, and that blocks your own manifestation process, because for you to be able to manifest whatever that you want, you think that you wish for, you need that free flow. You need to be in harmony, where the brain, the left brain and the right brain are in harmony. Then something is birthed all the time, instead of harboring negativity within. You can try whatever you try, but as long as your frequency vibrates very low, you'll find it very difficult, to a point that you would think that nature is not responding to you, forgetting that you are the creator of the reality that you experience in life.
That is, yeah, there's, a lot of golden touch points and nuggets to, inherit from what you've just said. And I think with that, throughout time and, being so unrooted, people have kind of tried to separate science and, spirituality. Which brings me towards my next question then. How does this work from an elemental standpoint, a natural standpoint, and what I'm speaking about more specifically is land, water, fire, air, these elements. How do they form part of our spiritual and social balance?
They are the foundational principles for our creation. We're created by all those, elements and other elements that are prevalent in our universe. So therefore, you need to be conscious of who you are. You are not the physical flesh or the fleshy nook that you think you are. You are spirit. So therefore, you are created. You are a conglomerate of these atoms, that are surrounding us in the air and everything. So once your consciousness is there, you destroy the wall that always hinders your progress. Instead of limiting yourself to this physical body.
That makes complete sense to me, and I hope all our listeners out there are paying attention. Now that we've gotten that particular grounding out the way, I think we can start to head towards the meat of the conversation. I just wanted to get your insight and perspective on the South African political climate. And also just what your perspective is on how unstable it is and how African spiritual principles can help restore moral balance in leadership.
Yes, it will always be unstable as long as we are still run by a foreign system, a colonial system that doesn't adhere to the dictates of our African spirituality. There will always be chaos. But out of chaos, order must be birthed. So therefore, it's upon us to destroy the very same system that is eating us like a cancer, because these republics on the continent, they are a cancer to us. We're not supposed to be adopted. We're supposed to revive the ancient, tried and tested governing system of the continent, which is African royalty. So therefore, as long as we are still run by these colonial laws and colonial system, Africa is going nowhere. We need to destroy everything that came with the colonizer. Then we start afresh, we start anew, because we are capable of doing that, so that we align our system to nature. African royal system is connected to nature, so therefore, that's the system that should be governing the whole of the rest of the continent. So we need to start by destroying this system, which is, it was also, remember that the UN in 1974, it declared this system crime against humanity. It violates black people's rights. This system, which is called the Republic of South Africa and other republics on the continent. So the first thing that we need to do when we are rebuilding, we need to destroy the republics on the continent and reinstall our own tried and tested, governing system.
That makes sense, and I know you put it quite aptly once more, but it also just seems like a larger picture. So just from a micro scale, in terms of just the first steps and how we can, address these issues, such things as Ubuntu, how can they, be applied towards our current democratic institutions today? And is that even a possibility or feasibility?
It's not possible. What you call democratic system, it's actually a corrupt system, a theft, founded on theft. So there's a whole system, is written, with our ancestors' blood, because they had to kill our ancestors for them to form this system that is running us today. So therefore, the system has to go for us to be normal again. You know, I know a lot of black people are benefiting or beneficiary of the system, but you know, those that are affluent and be able to survive today must not block the majority which is in squalor. You know, we need to think as one, you know, as black people, because this system has separated us. It has put others, you know, in mkukus, you know, others are living in mansions. Those have access, and that those that are beneficiary of, you know, the benefit from the system will always resist and, you know, try and serve, you know, their masters to the detriment of the majority of black people. So we need to be reasonable because what they are getting now, it's peanuts as compared to when, you know, the rest of, you know, black people will be benefiting, because we'll be owning our resources, we'll have enough money and resources to satisfy everyone. Instead, you know, the system just empowering just a few and just, you know, demonstrating them as, you know, leaders of black, you know, business. And, you know, they call them, they call them, there's a term, they call them the black diamonds. Those that are affluent, you know, affluent and making it in life, are then separated. And unfortunately, even those black people develop an attitude that they are better. Why? Because they have access to resources. They are able to do whatever they want. They must also think for those that are not able, not because they are not capable of, you know, fending for themselves, but the system is blocking them in each and every step that, you know, they try to empower themselves. It's not happening. It's unlike what happened with the Africa, between the Afrikaners and the British. When the Afrikaners took power from the British, they empowered their own Afrikaner people. They didn't care what you know, the British you know, were saying. All they want, they had one vision, you know, of empowering themselves, and they are empowered. Unfortunately, black people come and take over. Nothing happens to us. You know, you go and make proposal, they steal one collateral. Where do you get that collateral? Because everything of yours and your ancestors were stolen by these, you know, colonial and white people who are still controlling us using our own money and resources.
I think, you know, I wouldn't be alone in saying that I myself feel that what you've just said resonates deeply within the, you know, black plight and struggle. Just to, you know, move the address towards a specific demographic, that being the youth and identity. You know, it seems like the first thing that would need to take place, especially as it pertains to the youth, is the development of courage. So what I want to ask you next is, what role do, you know, ancestral teachings play in empowering the youth to lead with wisdom and courage? And also, what are then the dangers that they are prone to face if that call is, you know, isn't heeded at all?
Just to respond to the last one, they will remain as slaves. You know, especially, you know, people like us who are making efforts and sacrificing everything to bring the knowledge to them. So it's up to them whether they accept, you know, and take that knowledge and build a future for themselves, because it's not about us. We won't be there. You know, it's about empowering the youth so that they are empowered enough to no longer belong to that category of being you know, a slave of you know, white people. So we are trying to empower the youth so that they know who they are, you know, in the first place. And you know, secondly, what the youth don't realize is that you can't build your future when you are 30 or 40. You know, that's too late. You need now get this wisdom and knowledge, empower yourself, and start building your future now. You know, so that by the time you reach 30, 40, at least you are clear. How many, you know, youths are busy with things that are not assisting them at all. You find throughout the whole day they are busy with things that are destroying them instead of building them. So it's about choice. Whatever choices people make, this is going to impact them, you know, in future. But I know a lot of, you know, youth in South Africa are very rebellious and are hungry for this knowledge system and wisdom. So those that are wise will open their ears and, you know, take action towards, you know, decolonizing themselves in the first place so that they are able to face a future of the continent without being fence sitters where you are confused, you don't know whether you are a Westerner or you are an African. That has to be raised. You are Africa first. So you need to make African culture your culture of choice. Everything that you do has to be centered around your identity instead of being confused.
And I think you know that raises a very important point as it pertains to social rebuilding, because you know as we are well aware, there is, you know, tons of racial division, but just even more, you know, so importantly, we have seen a lot of tribal division amongst ourselves. And I wanted to ask you, are there any traditional ceremonies or rituals that can play a role in reconciling that amongst ourselves as Black people?
Yes, you know, there are rituals that, you know, it's just that it's about acceptance. African spirituality and culture is overpowered by the media because the media is promoting Western culture all the time. So our children are confused. You know, they see the nice things that are provided by this Western culture, which is a false, you know, lifestyle. You need to revert back to who you are as an African person and start building. And what we teach here at GK, we are not teaching people to be slaves. Whatever, you know, that we teach is to unlock your own potential, your own innate abilities, so that we are able to build a future with your mind and heart and articulate that with your mind. That is how our ancestors made it. That's why they were great. They built all these monuments and pyramids that Westerners can't, you know, repeat. Why? Because they were still connected to nature. You know, the knowledge for them was unlimited because they were drawing directly from the source. So this is what I wish for, you know, for African, you know, people, to get leaders that are also not confused and colonized, so that the leaders are the ones that are supposed to promote this, you know, ancient, you know, lifestyle of the continent. But you find our leaders, or most of them, you know, are almost colonized. You see in the way they behave, they act, they dress, you know, that represents that colonial system.
No, that's very important to note. So now that we are aware of our mission, let's go back to first steps for, you know, your citizens. How then do we spiritually, you know, practice that daily beyond prayer and ritual? And also, you know, how can we then collectively shift the nation's energy through everyday acts of consciousness?
We need to go back and do what the Muslims and the Jews do. They live their culture, they live their spirituality. We have our own culture and spirituality, meaning that you need to give reverence to all these principles that have created you and everything that is, you know, in this universe on a daily basis for you to be able to gain favor. You know, it has to be a process that you do on a daily basis. And you see everything that you attempt, you know, it just, you know, flows Why? Because you are one with all these elements. Remember that the air that we breathe, it is conscious and has memory. The very same atoms that have created me or my body, because my body is a conglomerate of these atoms, the very same atoms that are surrounding us in the air. So therefore, everything is conscious, meaning that you can't hide from the air because it reaches, the deepest depth of, of this land. So you can't hide anywhere. Which is why you need to be conscious everything that you do on a daily basis. Never think that you are not seen, because these atoms that are surrounding you are conscious. They have memory, so it's important for us to always give reverence to the sun, to the moon, because without these cosmic bodies, it's only us as African people who are still praying. As we know, the stats are saying 90% of Africans are Christians, meaning that we are not connecting with nature, but we are giving reverence to something that sometimes never even existed, or we are following a lie that these people who gave us this religion are dropping now. In Israel, you can be arrested for teaching a Christianity, or teaching about the Bible. In Britain, the same thing. So why are Africans still holding on to this thing that was brought by the colonizer? And you find that black people can even kill you to defend this Christianity and Jesus and the Bible and everything.
I mean, I think, especially as your son, one of your most admirable traits is that you don't just talk the talk, but you walk it as well. Just giving notes to, the ceremonies and events that we were just most recently discussing. On the internet, specifically on TikTok and Facebook, there's been a huge buzz, a huge amount of feedback regarding our African New Year, Inzalo Yelanga, that happened on the 23rd of September. So amidst all of the rave that was going on about it, I wanted to get your personal reflection on how you felt that went, and where we can move from there.
That demonstrated, the hunger for especially the youth, because it majority of people who responded is the youth, is the hunger of being told the truth, especially about themselves and their environment. So I was quite happy to see the growth, especially on our socials, with regard to the interviews that we've done. So it encourages me, because that is what we are hoping for, organic growth, and another thing, we don't convert. If you don't hear what we are saying, we pass. It means that, to us, it means that it's not yet your time. Your time will come. So we don't want to waste our time converting people. And another thing, our target market is the youth. The old people are there, but you can't really bring in new things on old people. It's going to be difficult, just be wasting your time. Old people are there, to hear. We do have old people here, abogogo, that come, during our lectures. And abomkulu that come during that. Those regard them as a very, 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 these are people who have I can call it, the wisdom to be able to raise the principle of Anpu, the principle of discernment, that says, even though I receive this knowledge now, I feel it, within me, and I think it's something that should be promoted amongst the youth, as opposed to those, old people who will want to argue with you, based on Western philosophy and Western, religion. So those we don't waste our time. Once people are there, we just pass.
Yes, yes, yes. Thank you for that. It's always such a pleasure to get such insights from yourself. And now, on towards what it is I am expecting all the people are waiting for, that being the next ceremony, which is the summer solstice